Hey, welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove. And before we get into today's guest, who is a repeat offender, I must say, of the From the Shadows podcast, I want to remind everybody how you can find us. You can find us on Facebook at From the Shadows Podcast. You can find us on our forum page at After the Shadows. You can find me at Shane Grove Author on Instagram, or you can find us at our From the Shadows podcast page on Instagram. All those places you can follow us, check out all the crazy stuff we put up there, and join in the fun. You can send us messages if you want to, or if you want to send me an email, you can go to the website fromtheshadowspodcast.com, hit the contact button, send me an email. I'll get back to you, especially if you want to share an experience and maybe come on the show and talk about it and share it. So you can also find some extra content if you go to our Patreon page. We put up episodes, or we try to get episodes up early. They all are commercial free, and we do some extra episodes each month. And I think we're going to start doing some live stuff on Patreon. So go check all that stuff out. If you got, like I said, if you got any questions, get a hold of us. We're happy to talk to anybody. So I want to get started. This guest, she was on, I think last summer, maybe, had some great Sasquatch, Bigfoot stories. And as with a lot of her guests, I keep in contact with them, and we talk every now and then. And she decided to just out of the blue drop, "Hey, would you like to talk about my deer man experience and another supernatural experience?" And of course, she knows I can't resist that sort of stuff. So joining us again is Ronda. And if you guys remember, you had the Bigfoot experiences were in Iowa, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Iowa. Yes. So if you remember that episode, this is Rhonda coming back to share a couple more of her creepy supernatural tales of some of the stuff that she's experienced. So Rhonda, how have you been doing since last time we had you on?
Well, actually, I've been doing all right. All right. I've been entering a few more art shows and winning, and yeah.
Now, are any of these art pieces that you're doing of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Deer Man, anything like that?
No, but if you think that that's something that you would like, I can fix that.
I think that would be awesome. I would think that would be awesome, and I know our fans would love to go and check some stuff like that out. So when we get to the, I know you're working on a website stuff. So when we get to the end here, maybe we can tell people where they can find some of your stuff, or where they will be able to find some of your stuff. So Rhonda, you teased me enough. Let's tell us what the Deer Man is, and how you came across experiencing the Deer Man.
Well, I grew up in a little town in Illinois. Name of the town's Buda. At the time, there was like 300 people, and that was including all the farmers too. It was pretty small. My dad was he owned a business there, and he was a repairman. And there was how I discovered Deer Man. It wasn't anything that we ever heard in school or at games or anything like that. My dad one day took me over to Kewanee to pick up material because I was in home ec. And Buda, of course, didn't have any type of store like that. And so we're driving along the blacktop, and I did know as a fact prior to, now to change something real quick here, interject, he didn't like going to this one farm that was surrounded by timber right on that blacktop. And but he would, of course, he was a businessman. But we're driving along, and all of a sudden he's going, "Don't look straight. Don't look out." And I'm going, because I'm kind of seeing something on the left side of the car. And I was in the front seat with my dad, and I could see it like next to him, kind of. And I'm kind of like, oh, I'm a kid. I'm going to look. I'm sorry. So I started looking slowly, and I could swear I seen a deer, seriously. And I'm going, you know, and then he's going, "Don't look. I'm telling you, don't look." And so we get past, and I kind of look around anyway. And whatever it was, it did not have the body of a man. It didn't have the body of a deer, but it had a body more similar to a man than a deer. But his head was not a man. And it was true. And I'm going, "What was that?" You know, I'm asking my dad, "What was that?" And he said, "Just forget about it. Don't say anything. Just forget about it." So we get to Kiwani, and of course, my hair's still standing on end. Dad's kind of, you know, "Get your material, let's go." And then on the way back, we did take a different route. But I really never gave it a lot of thought after that, because as Shane can tell you, I've had some strange encounters all my life, my whole life. And we kind of, in a talk, attributed it to maybe the fact that it's the Native American in me that brings this, or something. Anyways, for some reason, I draw these things. And so as I got older, and it was probably a couple years after that, I was in the Drum and Bugle Corps. And we would travel to Kiwani for practice. And of course, we weren't old enough to drive, my girlfriend and I, and her brother, her big brother, would take us. And one day he'd come pick me up, and we were going a different route. And I asked him, I said, "How come we're not going the regular blacktop? It's shorter. We're going to be late, you know." And he's like, "No, I'll never drive that blacktop again." And I said, "What happened?" You know, and so his sister was asking the same thing. She didn't know anything about it. And I can't say her name and their name, because we don't have their permission or anything. But what it boiled down to was he seen something there as well. And it wasn't Bigfoot. It was, and he says, "I seen Deer Man." And I'm going, "Oh, I think I remember something like this, you know." And so later on, you know, we were talking at the practice and there'd been several kids that was from the Sheffield, Buda, Neponset area that has seen something like that. And as I was telling Shane, I said, of course, it's been considered a myth, and Kiwani itself has taken over the notoriety of it. You know, saying, well, some of their football players and different ones had, you know, said they seen this and such, and it's been said as a hoax. But there was actually, they're saying they seen it in Kiwani. Well, I'm not going to say it didn't, but I'll be honest with you, it started between Buda and Neponset, and that's where it was seen. That's where it's always been seen. And there is definitely, or was definitely, something there.
So let me ask, because I got about a million questions here. So first off, was this thing, when you saw it, running beside the car?
It was running beside the car.
So it was essentially keeping up with the car, or you guys were
keeping up?
Because like a deer can't even keep up with a car.
Exactly.
Like, not for very long.
Exactly.
So obviously your dad had, I mean, and I don't want to jump to conclusions or assumptions, but your dad obviously had a previous sighting.
Yeah. And I think it.
Did he tell you about it, or did he?
Somewhat.
What did he say?
You have to understand, my dad was not one to just, you know, tell stories or blurt things out. He kept a lot to himself. But one time we were down at the American Legion, and I got him to open up. And I said, we were playing some pool, and I said, Dad, remember that time on the blacktop? And he looks at me, and he had this way of just, kind of like, oh, don't do this, And, but he talked to me for a little bit, and he said, I'll answer a few questions. That's it. And I said, did you know this thing was there? He goes, well, let's just say I knew something was there. I seen glimpses of it when I was at so-and-so's farm working before, and several times. He says, but I never had it chase the car. And he says, that's why I told you not to look. I didn't want you to know this. I said, but Dad, I mean, and then later, that's when you and I had the Bigfoot talk and I lived on a farm that was on that blacktop. And I never seen it come to the house or anything like that. Did it? It could have. I wouldn't have known it.
So that same road that you had those experiences with on that farm was on the same road where these
blacktop. Mm-hmm.
Really? Now, for people that are listening that don't, so you're saying blacktop, and that's basically because a lot of the roads there were not paved.
Correct. They were not concrete. They were.
Yeah. Okay. Now, was your dad? Is he the Native American part of your ancestry, or is it your mom?
It's actually my mother.
Your mother. Okay. So that's kind of odd that he had the sighting. Yeah, the sighting
unless
of
it's
it.
Real. Unless it's something there.
Wow. So now, was there any of the kids or anybody that talked about experiencing it and seeing it? Did any of them feel like threatened? Did they feel like it was coming after them? Did it feel like it was chasing them out of somewhere?
Well, from what I could gather from the few people that would actually open up and, in the whisper, I seen this thing. This thing is real, It didn't seem like they were so much threatened as much as it just frightened them, because it's not something in the norm. No. I'm sorry, exactly. It's not. And, you and I discussed before that we're wondering if this could be something to do with aliens, because along that blacktop too, there was alien sightings and such. Could it be? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but it's there and it's true. Is it there now? I haven't heard anything.
I can be honest with you. If a lot of this stuff is attributed to aliens, they are missing the mark on how to present themselves to us. You know what I'm saying? They're like, well, maybe if we show up as this 8-foot deer looking thing, run like.
Well, there was a lot of deer hunters back then. They should have been very careful about that one.
Yeah, I and we're talking about a time period where, like you said, your dad was tight-lipped, and there's not a lot of free-flowing knowledge. There's no forums to go check something like this out. There's no books in the library probably, and a lot of people probably did experience some stuff and just keep it quiet. I mean, exactly. if you hadn't been with your dad and seen it, he'd have never told you.
He would have never said anything. He wouldn't even said anything to Mom. He never even shared things like that with Mom. He kept things to himself. And the only thing over our discussion was he did admit one thing, and that was the fact that he says, in my life, Ronda, I've seen a lot of things. So that just always made me wonder, but he never would open up.
Wow. And while you have to respect people's decisions on being that way, it also is frustrating, because I just imagine how much evidence through at least eyewitness testimony has been lost through the years, because people just don't feel they can, or they just don't want to share stuff. That's just like, oh, come on, just tell us, just tell us.
Yeah, I agree. But I have to look at it. I have to kind of sit on the fence, because Dad was a businessman. I know he had to have seen a lot of things that he just wasn't sharing, because there was many jobs that he was out in the middle of a field with nothing but cattle, or, trying to get the pumps going, or he was in someone's milk house by himself. You see what I'm saying? Or,
Yeah.
and such like this, in machine sheds and that. And so Dad spent a lot of his working time alone, so I'm sure he had come across things and he didn't share it because he probably thought people would, like they do today, think you're wacky. you know uh,
Now,
yeah.
I'm sure you've come across artists' renderings of like skinwalkers and wendigos,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of times those are depicted with, having antlers on their
Right.
head. Was there anything about what you saw or what you heard other people saw that might lend you to believe that it could have been one of those types of creatures?
Well, after I got older,
Hmm.
okay, and had experienced that, and talked to a few people that did see it, and then looking up online to see what was there and such, I'm more inclined to think it could be something like that because in that area, Buda, Neponset, they're all, well, Neponset, Kiwani is prairie chicken in Indian. I mean, it's just, that was a Native American area. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
arrowheads were found there, all sorts of things. And so it's very possible it has that influence. It could very well have been something like that. I am more inclined to believe it's that than alien.
So we're kind of discussing whether or not you think that these may or may not be tied to Native American legends of the Skinwalker and the Wendigo, and I think we kind of touched on that. The more that we talk about, that we talk to people from the Midwest, Native American history is so rich that everything seems to tie back to those times because they do have stories about these types of creatures and they do have beliefs centered around these types of creatures. And it's not like they saw them on, Monster Quest. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? This is something that they passed down either through pictures or oral tradition, like carvings, rock carvings, or uh, cave paintings and stuff. So it just leads me to believe that these were things that they were experiencing in some form or fashion, whether it was actually physical or it's a spiritual type of manifestation. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is, some of these things really seem built to scare the pants off of you. You know what I'm saying? There's and wonder what the reason is, you know?
Well, it's like the information I sent you on Mesa, on the Indian area there where people disappear. And I told you about Dad building the new house, and I went to reach in the closet, and my arm disappeared, and I'm like, whoa, you know. Um, there's a lot of things happen through that area, and it was. Uh, I think there was quite a bit of Native American history through there.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I mean, um, and they even talk, when you're talking about like your arm disappearing, and is that like a portal that just
What?
happens to be there? And because when we talk about Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah, I mean, the Native Americans talk about that sort of stuff happening, things coming from nowhere and disappearing
Different
into
dimension.
nowhere. Yeah,
Different
a different
dimension.
dimension.
Right.
And I've talked to a couple guests who say, look, this is something that happens all over the world. There's places all over the world, in towns, in cities,
I
not just
believe
out in
it.
the yeah, just not out in the middle of the desert, where nobody sees them. So it's certainly interesting, and I would love to hear from our listeners if anybody else has ever encountered anything similar, especially in the Midwest, and if they've referred to it or called it Deer Man, or if it's something, I wonder if people are going to say, oh, she just saw a Wendigo or a skinwalker, and I even think those are. We did an episode where those kind of are the same thing. We think it's just the further you go from east to west, the description of them changes slightly, and but it seems to me like they could be the same thing. um, People will draw lines in the sand and say, "Oh no, this is this," but it just seems to me like it maybe be a thing that happened further east, and as you went further west, it evolved into another story and changed a little bit. But it's all very interesting. There's so
Well,
much cool stuff
that
to
makes
learn.
sense. But also the natives themselves, each tribe is different. Even though their
Mhm.
beliefs are basically the same, but they're going to have different names for things and maybe even a little different experiences depending on the area.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very fascinating topic to kind of talk about and research for sure, because, like I said, I think in our country, in this, where we're at, everything can be tied back to the Native Americans. Like they're the ones I think that hold the answers to a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And to be quite honest, I wouldn't blame them for not giving us those answers.
No,
I wouldn't.
I'm afraid humans exploit everything.
Yes, yes. Well, okay. So we talked about now you also dangled another supernatural type story that I have not heard even a inkling, a little sliver of this story. So I'm all ears. Like I want to hear what this other experience is.
Well, after we had talked last time, I had literally I was going to say something about it, and then we got off on another tangent. Um, but I used to live in Galesburg, okay,
Okay.
and like a lot of people, we uh, research religions and beliefs and things like that. And there was a group of us that were lean more towards the earth and such, instead of just regular, standalone churches and things like that. And we had come across a young fellow that wanted to show us something, and we went to his place, and there was actually, I was the fourth person, and there was four of us, and we went up to his apartment, and he said, "I'm afraid to live here." Well, then why are you living here? I mean, we're just all standing there going, come on, really, why would you stay someplace you don't want to be? And he was saying, "I don't know if this is real, or if I'm doing it to myself, or I'm making this up." He says, I needed somebody that would be unbiased and would watch this. And so he walked over to this closet, and he turned around and he looked at us, and we're standing there waiting, and he turns around and he says, "Okay, now are you ready?" Yeah. So we could see the way we were around him. We could see the side, we could see from the back, and he opened the door, and when he did that, he just stiffened up, let out a blood-curdling scream, fell backwards, and his whole shirt and chest was like a big claw marks down the front. And we're going, what? How'd this happen? And of course, everybody's rushing to see if he's okay. And, there was two of us was looking in the closet. There was nothing there. And I'm going, I believe this because of my past experiences. I knew there was something wrong. And, I said, I don't know about you, but instead of just, questioning, why haven't you just gotten out of there? And I was being nice saying this on the podcast, but I said, get out of there, And so he ended up moving, and it didn't follow him, but he says, there was something in that place. I said, well, it was either there or you brought it in. It doesn't just appear unless it was there to begin with. You know the history of the place. But yeah, there had been several people that were looking into different religions and such. And so we finally got him cornered and said, "Did you look into Satanism?" And he's like, "Yeah," but he says, "I didn't want any part of it because it scared me." And I said, "Well, who knows? I don't want to know anything about Satanism, so I don't want it following me around, But we concluded later that this young man probably did dabble in something that he shouldn't have, and we were a witness to this entity of some sort. Didn't see it physically, but it literally right in front of us just made big, deep scratch marks down his chest and tore his shirt.
What the heck? So, number one, how it was just like him opening the closet. So something
just opened the door and something was inside that closet. So in my mind, I don't really want to know what he did because I don't want to be part of it. But in a way, I was like questioning, going, he had to have something in there that he shouldn't have had, maybe. And maybe.
Oh, you think there was
the truth?
You think there was an object in the closet?
We do. We don't think that he, after talking by ourselves, we don't think he was telling us 100% truth. I mean, granted, there's evil spirits everywhere, but why would you live in a place that you open up your closet door and it's going to attack you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Common sense tells you, So there had to be something, but that to me just means that there is objects and there is influences out there that can actually harm you. You just got to be careful what you're doing.
Well, how many times had he been subject to opening the door and getting?
He said once prior, and he wanted a witness to this. If it, he didn't know if it was going to do it again. He said, but he wanted witnesses to it.
See, I almost don't believe that. I believe
we met him through a meditation group.
Huh. And now, were any of you guys inclined to stand there and open the closet?
Actually, one of the girls did. It wasn't me.
And did it?
I've had enough. No, it's okay.
Did anything happen to her?
No.
So it was obviously just him.
Exactly.
Holy smokes! And so, how soon? So he moves out, and it didn't follow him. Is that what you're?
Well, let's just say the last we knew, he moved out. It didn't follow him, but he disappeared. We have no idea where he went from there, and we didn't look him up because it wasn't one of our regular people, and we weren't sure about him. You understand what I'm saying? It was, something's kind of odd here, but it was real. It was bigger than life. It was real. There's nothing in that closet that could have done that. Physically,
I got nothing. I mean, to me, that sounds like you are suspecting it's like an evil entity, either that he conjured up that's residing there, or he has an object there that maybe is holding that evil spirit. Golly, that'd be scary.
But see, there's people that figured out in their own homes, that maybe they went to an antique auction and picked up something that they wanted or something, and a spirit follows it, and I'm a firm believer in that because of all the different things that's happened to me from the time I was very, very young, and I can believe that.
Yeah, no, I mean, once you're not just a believer but a knower, then it's easier to accept what happens to other people because obviously it's now you just can't discredit somebody if you yourself have had the experience.
Exactly.
Or a experience, and that's the blessing and the curse of having those experiences, is that you can you could say, okay, anything's possible. You know?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Well, Rhonda, I'm glad that I'm so glad that you decided to share these with us again. I mean, these are great stories, and I'm glad that you did not open that closet and experience anything.
Hey, I don't push my luck. I come across my own things. I really don't need to go looking for them.
Oh man.
But,
Well, I'd love anybody listening, especially if you heard Rhonda's experience and stories about the deer man, reach out to us, send me an email. I would love to hear if there's any more people who've had similar sightings or experiences. And I know I'm going to get something about that second story, because every time we have something on about an evil spirit, there's always somebody that has another experience that is similar. So that's why I appreciate you coming on and sharing them, because it gets other people and it encourages them to share their stories. So
I have one more.
oh, you got one more? Oh
One more.
gosh. Okay.
My
Okay, here's the bonus. Here's the bonus.
Okay, my ex, I used to go to old cemeteries down in Florida. And I did a lot of artifact hunting. Okay. And I had a permit with the university and that. But we would go to these old cemeteries and just walk through. And, it was nice to see they were upkept. There were some of them that were ages old. And my dog found where a chipmunk or something, I think it was bigger than that, dug a hole, and there was a bone laying there. And my ex-husband reached over and picked it up. I said, "Oh no, put it back." He goes, "Do you think it's human?" I said, "We're in a graveyard. You don't think it's human?" I mean, seriously? I said, "Yeah, it looks human to me." So he says, "Well, I don't think it is." He says, "I'm going to take it home." I said, "Oh, please don't do that." He did. And my dog and I were like freaking out. And my dog wouldn't even go near him. And after that, he started seeing somebody. He says, "I'm seeing this old guy following me around." I said, "I told you not to take that bone. You don't take things like that. What's wrong with you?" Notice I said ex-husband, right? So anyway, he ended up taking it back, and then it quit following him around. But he says, "I think you're right." He says that was his. I said, "What did you expect?" I mean, the serious side, why would you do that? But yeah, he actually picked up a bone, took it home from the cemetery. My dog's like, wouldn't even go near him. And, she'd whine a lot, and she would look. You could see where he would look. He would say, "Don't you see it?" I said, "I don't see it because I didn't pick up the bone," And, but my dog would see it. And then he finally took it back and put it back where it belonged. And he said, and I covered it up. I didn't go with him either. He says, "I covered it back up, the hole and stuff." I said, "Well, good, that's good." I said, "Now we'll see what happens from here, I guess." But sure enough, it quit following him around and appearing. It's like,
goodness
this stuff
gracious.
is real. This stuff is real. And people need to understand that there's an energy in Earth, and a spirit to me is an energy form, and it just depends on if you want good energy or bad energy. I think,
And don't pick up anybody's bones.
That's so stupid. I couldn't believe you did that.
That is crazy. Okay, all right. Well, there's a lesson for everyone out there.
Everybody,
keep your hands to yourself and keep your bones to yourself. Right. Well, Rhonda, it's been great to have you back on, and thank you again for being part of the show. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. And all you people out there that listen, you have to believe. You really do, because there's a lot of things that we just can't explain.
Yep, I'm right there with you. All right, Rhonda, we will talk to you later.
Well, you have a good day.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.